What if I told you that right now, inside your skull, something incredibly important is happening quietly, almost invisibly, and for millions of people over the age of 60, it's slowly breaking down night after night without them even realizing it. Not because of bad luck, not because of genetics, and not because they made some obvious mistake, but because of something far more ordinary, what they chose to eat or didn't eat before going to bed. It might sound too simple at first, maybe even hard to believe, but stay with me because by the time you reach the end of this, you won't just understand your brain in a way most people never do. You'll also know exactly what you can change starting tonight. So let's begin with a question almost no one ever asks. What is your brain actually doing while you sleep? Most people imagine the brain switching off like a computer, going into sleep mode, resting, doing very little. But the truth is the complete opposite. While your body lies still and your awareness fades, your brain becomes extremely active, running one of the most advanced biological systems we've ever discovered. It's cleaning itself, repairing damage, and rebuilding the connections that allow you to remember names, think clearly in conversations, and feel mentally sharp when you wake up. And here's the part most people never hear about. After the age of 60, this entire system begins to weaken slowly, quietly, without clear warning signs, and often for years before anyone notices. What makes this even more concerning is that by the time symptoms show up, forgetfulness, confusion, mental fog, the damage has already been building for a long time. But there's something even more surprising, something rarely talked about in everyday discussions about brain health. The foods you eat, especially in the hours before sleep, directly affect whether this nightly repair system works properly or begins to fail. Not supplements, not complex treatments, just real everyday foods that are easily available. And among them, there are five in particular that stand out for their powerful effects on the aging brain. But before we get into those, you need to understand what's actually happening inside your brain at night. Because once you see the mechanism clearly, the solution won't just make sense, it will feel impossible to ignore. Deep inside your brain, there's a system scientists only discovered relatively recently. For decades, researchers knew that the brain produces waste as a result of normal activity, including damaged proteins and toxic compounds that build up throughout the day. But what remained a mystery was how the brain removed this waste. When the answer was finally uncovered, it changed everything. During deep sleep, a fluid called cerebrospinal fluid flows through the brain in a wave like motion, clearing out debris, much like water washing away dirt. This system is now known as the glymphatic system, and what it removes each night plays a major role in whether your mind stays clear or slowly becomes overwhelmed by its own waste. One of the most dangerous substances this system clears is a protein called beta-amyloid. You may have heard of it because of its strong connection to Alzheimer's disease. In a healthy brain that gets enough deep sleep, this protein is flushed out efficiently night after night. But when sleep is poor, or when the brain lacks the nutrients needed to support this process, beta amyloid begins to build up. Slowly at first, then steadily over time, night after night, week after week, year after year. And here's the part that should make you pause. This buildup starts long before any symptoms appear, long before memory problems begin. By the time someone notices something is wrong, this process may have been quietly developing for more than a decade. So now the question becomes unavoidable. What does this have to do with what you eat for dinner? The answer is simple but powerful: everything. The glymphatic system doesn't run on motivation or intention, it runs on biology. It needs specific nutrients to function properly, healthy fats to maintain brain cell structure, vitamins to support nerve signaling, minerals to regulate activity, and compounds that control inflammation and oxidative stress. Without these, the system slows down, waste begins to accumulate, and the brain you wake up with the next morning is just slightly worse than the one from the night before. That change might be small, almost unnoticeable at first, but when you repeat it across hundreds of nights across years, it becomes significant. This is how cognitive decline often happens, not suddenly, but gradually, through a quiet process of incomplete repair and accumulated damage. Most people never connect this decline to their daily habits, especially their evening meals, until it's too late to change. But now you're seeing it clearly. And that awareness alone puts you in a completely different position. There's another factor that makes this even more urgent, and that is inflammation. It's a word people hear often, but rarely fully understand. Inside the brain, inflammation isn't just a vague idea, it's a real measurable force that interferes with almost every repair process we've talked about. Chronic, low level inflammation reduces the brain's ability to clear waste, disrupts deep sleep, weakens memory formation, and even damages the tiny energy producing structures inside brain cells. And after the age of 60, this kind of inflammation becomes extremely common, especially in people who are not actively consuming the nutrients needed to control it. What makes inflammation particularly dangerous is how it feeds into itself. Poor sleep increases inflammation. Increased inflammation further disrupts sleep, and this cycle continues, gradually speeding up the decline of brain function. Every food we're about to discuss plays a role in breaking that cycle, not by targeting just one issue, but by supporting the brain in a more complete and balanced way. But the story doesn't stop at cleaning and repair. Something just as important is happening while you sleep. As the brain clears out waste, it's also organizing everything you experience during the day, every conversation, every face, every piece of information. It strengthens the connections that matter and removes the ones that don't. It stores important information in long term memory, making it easier to recall later. And this process depends heavily on the chemical environment inside your brain, your neurotransmitters, your neural connections, and the nutrients available to support them. And here's where things take another important turn. After 60, this entire system becomes less efficient. Sleep cycles become disrupted, key brain chemicals decrease, inflammation increases, nutrient absorption weakens, and the tiny energy producing units inside brain cells begin to lose efficiency. These changes don't happen separately, they interact and reinforce each other, accelerating the overall decline. But, and this is the part that truly matters, this process is not fixed. It is not unavoidable. Research consistently shows that targeted changes in diet and lifestyle can slow, stop, and even reverse aspects of this decline even later in life. The brain is not a machine that simply wears out. It adapts. It responds to what you give it. And the foods we're about to explore are some of the most effective ways to support it. The first food is something many people overlook without even thinking about it. It's small, simple, and often ignored on grocery shelves. But when it comes to brain health, it's one of the most powerful foods you can eat. Sardines. At first glance, they don't seem impressive. They're not marketed as a superfood. They're not trendy, and they rarely show up in conversations about improving memory or protecting the brain. But when you look at what they actually contain, it becomes clear why scientists consistently highlight them as one of the best choices for an aging brain. Sardines are packed with two essential omega 3 fatty acids, DHA and EPA. These aren't just helpful nutrients, they are fundamental building blocks of the brain itself. DHA, in particular, makes up a large portion of the structure of brain cell membranes. And these membranes are not just passive barriers. They control how signals move between neurons, how efficiently information is processed, and how well different parts of the brain communicate with each other. When there isn't enough DHA available, these membranes begin to lose flexibility. They become more rigid, less responsive, and less capable of supporting the fast electrical and chemical signaling that thinking and memory rely on. Think about what that means during sleep when your brain is trying to organize memories and strengthen connections. Signals need to move smoothly between neurons, but instead, they're moving through a system that has become slightly stiff and less efficient. Over time, that small inefficiency builds up. Memory becomes less reliable. Thinking feels slower. Clarity begins to fade. And because the body cannot produce enough DHA on its own, the only way to maintain proper levels is through diet. Sardines provide this in a form the body absorbs very efficiently, making them one of the most reliable sources available. But their benefits don't stop there. Sardines are also extremely rich in vitamin B12, a nutrient that becomes harder to absorb as we age. This vitamin plays a crucial role in maintaining the myelin sheath, the protective layers surrounding nerve fibers. You can think of myelin as insulation around electrical wires. When it's strong and intact, signals move quickly and accurately. But when it begins to break down, those signals slow down, weaken, or even get lost. This is one of the reasons why B12 deficiency is often linked to memory problems and cognitive decline in older adults. By providing a strong supply of B12, sardines help protect this system directly. They support faster, clearer communication within the brain and help preserve the precision that sharp thinking depends on. And there's another advantage that makes sardines even more practical than many other fish. Because they are small and low on the food chain, they contain far lower levels of mercury compared to larger fish like tuna or even salmon. This means they can be eaten more frequently without concern, making them an easy and safe addition to your weekly routine. Eating sardines 2 to 3 times a week is enough to create a noticeable difference over time, especially when combined with other supportive foods. Now let's move to the second food, one that has become popular in recent years but is still widely misunderstood when it comes to its full impact on brain health: avocado. Most people think of it as a trendy ingredient or simply a healthy fat to include in meals, but its role in supporting the brain goes far beyond that. Avocados are rich in monounsaturated fats, the same type found in olive oil, and these fats play a key role in maintaining the structure of brain cells while also improving blood flow. Blood flow might not be something people immediately connect to brain performance, but it is absolutely essential. The brain may only make up a small percentage of your body weight, but it uses a large portion of your body's oxygen and energy every moment. It depends on a steady supply of blood to deliver oxygen, glucose, and nutrients to its cells. When blood flow is reduced even slightly, the brain begins to operate under less than ideal conditions. It's like trying to run a high performance machine without enough fuel. Over time, this leads to fatigue, slower thinking, and reduced efficiency in repair processes. Avocado helps improve this situation by supporting healthier blood vessels and reducing factors that restrict circulation. This means more oxygen and nutrients reach the brain, especially during the night when repair and restoration are at their peak. But what makes avocado even more valuable is its high folate content. Folate plays a central role in a process called methylation. It may sound technical, but its effects are very real. Methylation influences how neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine are produced, chemicals that affect mood, focus, and mental clarity. It also controls which genes inside brain cells are activated, including those responsible for repair and protection. And it helps the brain repair damage to DNA, something that happens regularly through normal activity. When folate levels are sufficient, these processes run smoothly. But when folate is lacking, the system becomes unstable. Mood can shift. Sleep can become disrupted. Memory may begin to weaken. Including even half an avocado in your daily meals can provide enough folate to support these processes effectively. And when eaten in the evening, it provides a steady release of healthy fats that help transport fat soluble nutrients throughout the night exactly when the brain needs them most. It's not just about what you eat, but when you eat it, and avocado fits perfectly into that timing. Now we move to the third food, something many people already eat, but often without realizing how powerful it can be when used correctly: walnuts. Among all nuts, walnuts stand out for a very specific reason. It's not just that they're healthy, it's how they support the brain on a deeper level, especially as it ages. Like sardines, walnuts contain omega 3 fatty acids, but their real strength lies in something most people never think about: energy production inside brain cells. Every single brain cell depends on tiny structures called mitochondria. These are responsible for producing the energy your brain needs to function, whether it's thinking, remembering, processing information, or repairing itself during sleep. Without enough energy, even basic brain functions begin to slow down. Over time, these mitochondria can become damaged, especially with age. And when that happens, they don't just stop working efficiently, they actually start creating more stress inside the cell. The body does have a natural system to deal with this. It identifies damaged mitochondria and removes them so they can be replaced with healthier ones. In younger individuals, this process works smoothly, but after 60, it becomes less efficient. Damaged mitochondria begin to accumulate, draining energy from the cell and contributing to overall cognitive decline. This is where walnuts come in. They contain compounds that help support this cleanup process, allowing brain cells to maintain a healthier balance of energy production. This becomes especially important during sleep when the brain is actively repairing itself and requires a steady supply of energy to do that work properly. In addition to this, walnuts are rich in antioxidants and polyphenols, compounds that help reduce oxidative stress and inflammation. Both of these are major factors that interfere with brain function. A small handful of walnuts in the evening can provide consistent support for these systems, helping the brain maintain its energy and resilience over time. And as you're starting to see, we're not just talking about isolated benefits. Each of these foods is supporting a different part of the same overall system, structure, blood flow, energy, and protection. And we're only halfway through. The next foods will connect these pieces even further and show how they work together in ways most people never consider. Now, we move to the fourth food, and in many ways, this is where everything begins to come together. If there is one food on this list that works across multiple systems at once, supporting sleep, circulation, memory, and protection, it is spinach. At first, it may not seem as powerful or exciting as some of the others. It's common, simple, and often overlooked. But when you look closely at what it does inside the body, it becomes clear that spinach plays a central role in keeping the brain functioning at its best, especially during the night when repair processes are at their peak. Spinach is rich in folate, just like avocado, but often in even higher amounts. This means it directly supports neurotransmitter production, helping regulate mood, focus, and mental clarity. It also plays a key role in DNA repair inside brain cells. And this is critical because brain cells are constantly exposed to stress throughout the day. Every thought, every action, every moment of activity creates small amounts of damage at the cellular level. Without proper repair, that damage builds up over time. Spinach helps the brain stay ahead of that process. But what truly makes spinach stand out is its magnesium content. Magnesium is one of the most overlooked nutrients when it comes to brain health, yet it has a direct and powerful effect on sleep quality. It helps regulate the nervous system, calming excessive brain activity and allowing the brain to transition into deeper stages of sleep. And those deep stages are exactly where the most important repair work happens, where the glymphatic system becomes most active and memory consolidation reaches its peak. In people who don't get enough magnesium, and this is extremely common, especially after 60, sleep becomes lighter and more fragmented. The brain struggles to reach deeper phases consistently, which means the cleaning and repair processes are interrupted. Over time, this leads to a gradual buildup of waste and a decline in mental performance. Spinach helps correct this by supporting a more stable and restorative sleep pattern, giving the brain the conditions it needs to function properly during the night. But it doesn't stop there. Spinach also contains natural nitrates, which the body converts into nitric oxide. This compound helps relax and widen blood vessels, improving circulation. Better blood flow means more oxygen and nutrients reach the brain, especially during periods of high demand, like nighttime repair. It also improves the brain's ability to use glucose, which is a key energy source for neurons working to rebuild and strengthen connections. Spinach goes even further by providing vitamin K, which supports the formation of specialized fats that make up the myelin sheath, the protective layer around nerve fibers that ensures fast and efficient signal transmission. And it contains vitamin E, a powerful antioxidant that protects brain cell membranes from damage. This protection becomes especially important during sleep, when the brain is actively repairing itself and needs to preserve the integrity of its cells. Interestingly, even the way spinach is prepared matters. Light cooking breaks down compounds that can block mineral absorption, making nutrients like magnesium more available to the body. A good serving of cooked spinach with dinner becomes one of the most effective ways to support multiple brain functions at once, especially for someone looking to maintain clarity and memory over time. Now, we come to the fifth and final food on this list, and this one takes many of the benefits we've already discussed and strengthens them even further: mackerel. If sardines are the steady, reliable source of essential fats, then mackerel is the more concentrated version, richer, more powerful, and perfectly suited to what the aging brain needs during its nightly repair cycles. Mackerel is extremely high in omega 3 fatty acids, especially DHA and EPA. But these fats don't just support the structure of brain cells, they also have strong anti inflammatory effects within the brain itself. And as we discussed earlier, inflammation is one of the biggest factors that disrupt sleep, damage neurons, and interfere with the brain's ability to repair itself. Inside the brain, there are specialized immune cells designed to protect and maintain balance. But as we age, these cells can become overactive. Instead of protecting the brain, they begin releasing substances that can actually harm brain tissue. This creates a cycle. More inflammation leads to more damage, which leads to even more inflammation. The omega 3s in mackerel help break this cycle. They bring the system back into balance, reducing unnecessary stress on brain cells and allowing repair processes to work more effectively. Mackerel also supports a key compound involved in learning and memory. This compound promotes the growth of new neural connections, strengthens existing ones, and helps the brain stay flexible and adaptable rather than becoming rigid over time. In simple terms, it acts like a growth factor for the brain. And one of the most reliable ways to maintain healthy levels of this compound is through consistent intake of omega 3 fatty acids, including mackerel in your diet once or twice a week alongside sardines, creates a steady supply of these essential fats. And it's this consistency that allows the brain to maintain its structure, reduce inflammation, and support the processes that keep memory and thinking sharp. At this point, you might be thinking about these foods individually, how sardines support structure, avocado improves blood flow, walnuts support energy, spinach enhances sleep and protection, and mackerel reduces inflammation. But here's where the real insight begins, and it's something most people completely overlook. These foods are not meant to work alone, they are part of a system, and when combined, they create an internal environment, especially inside the brain, that is far more powerful than any one of them on its own. Each one targets a different layer of the same problem, and together they support the brain in a way that feels almost coordinated. Sardines and mackerel strengthen and maintain the physical structure of brain cells while reducing inflammation. Avocado improves blood flow and supports the balance of brain chemicals. Walnuts help maintain energy production by supporting healthy cellular function. Spinach enhances sleep quality, improves circulation, and protects brain cells from damage. And when all of these are working together, the result is a system that supports repair, clarity, and long term resilience. But there's one more piece to this that most people never consider, and it has the power to completely change how effective all of this really is, and that is timing. We'll explore that in the next part because when you understand not just what to eat, but when to eat it, everything you've learned so far becomes even more powerful. Now we come to the part that quietly changes everything you've just learned, and it's something most people completely overlook, even if they already know all the right foods. Timing. Not just what you eat, but when you eat, it has a direct and measurable impact on how effectively your brain can use those nutrients during the night. You could include all five of these foods in your routine and still miss a large part of their benefit if they're eaten randomly without any awareness of when your brain actually needs them the most. Think about what happens in the hours after dinner. As your body prepares for sleep, everything begins to shift. Digestion slows down, hormone levels change, and your brain prepares to enter the deeper stages of sleep where the most important repair processes take place. This is exactly when the glymphatic system becomes most active, when memory consolidation reaches its peak, and when the brain needs a steady, ready supply of nutrients to perform all of this work efficiently. If those nutrients are already circulating in your bloodstream during this window, everything functions more smoothly. The fats needed to maintain cell membranes are available. The vitamins required for neurotransmitter function are present. The minerals that support deep sleep are active. And the compounds that reduce inflammation are already doing their job. In other words, you're not asking your body to store nutrients and use them later. You're delivering them exactly when demand is highest. That's why eating these foods in the evening as part of your dinner creates a completely different level of impact compared to spreading them randomly throughout the day. It aligns nutrient availability with biological need. And for an aging body where absorption and efficiency are already reduced, this alignment becomes even more important. Every small advantage begins to matter more, and those advantages start to build on each other over time. Consider a simple example: a dinner that includes mackerel, a portion of cooked spinach, and half an avocado isn't just healthy in a general sense, it creates a very specific internal environment. Within a few hours, The fatty acid balance in your bloodstream begins to shift. Magnesium and folate levels rise. Blood vessels relax, improving circulation. Inflammatory signals begin to decrease. All of these changes start the same night, not weeks later, and they directly influence how effectively your brain performs its nightly work. That's what makes this process so powerful. The effects aren't distant or delayed, they are immediate at the biochemical level. And when repeated consistently, they begin to compound. One night of improvement leads to another, and then another, gradually building a pattern that supports stronger brain function over time. The difference between someone who follows this pattern occasionally and someone who follows it consistently becomes very clear when you look at long term results. A person who eats this way 2 or 3 nights a week is already moving in a better direction, giving their brain more support than before. But someone who follows it 5 or 6 nights a week is building a much stronger and more stable foundation. Over weeks and months, that consistency begins to shape the brain itself, its structure, its efficiency, and its ability to repair and protect itself. And it's important to understand that this isn't about perfection, it's about patterns. One well balanced dinner helps, but it's only a single step. A consistent pattern of supportive meals is what creates real change. It's like the difference between hearing one note and listening to an entire piece of music. The full effect only becomes clear over time as each part builds on the last. This is also where whole foods show their real advantage over supplements. It's not that supplements have no value, they can help in certain situations, but they can't replicate the complexity of real food. When you eat something like spinach, avocado, or walnuts, you're not just getting one nutrient, you're getting a combination of vitamins, minerals, fats, fiber, and active compounds that interact with each other in ways that enhance their overall effect. For example, the healthy fats in avocado and sardines help your body absorb fat soluble vitamins from spinach more effectively. The fiber in spinach influences how nutrients are processed in the digestive system, improving their availability. The compounds in walnuts interact with your gut in ways that create additional substances that benefit the brain. These interactions are layered and interconnected, and they simply cannot be recreated in a single capsule or powder. That's why focusing on whole foods, especially in the right combinations, produces results that feel more complete and more sustainable. You're not targeting one single pathway, you're supporting multiple systems at once, allowing the body to function in a more balanced and efficient way. And when you combine this with proper timing, placing these foods into your evening routine, you create a powerful alignment between what your body receives and what your brain actually needs. It's not about doing something complicated or extreme. It's about making intentional choices in a part of your day that most people treat as routine. Now, take a moment to think about what this really means. Every evening, you are making a decision that directly affects how your brain will function during the night. Most people don't realize this. They choose meals based on habit, convenience, or taste without thinking about the long term impact. But once you understand what's happening, those choices start to carry more weight. You're no longer just deciding what to eat, you're deciding how well your brain will repair itself, how effectively it will clear waste, how strongly it will store memories, and how clearly you will think the next day. And when you see it from that perspective, even small changes begin to feel more meaningful. But there's still one final piece to this because this isn't just about individual nights or isolated choices. It's about the long term direction you're setting for your brain. When you step back and look at everything together, what you've learned isn't just a collection of facts about food or sleep. It's a completely different way of understanding your brain and your role in shaping its future. For most people, cognitive decline feels distant and unavoidable, something that simply comes with age. But what you now understand is very different. The brain isn't passively aging, it's actively responding every single day to the inputs it receives. And one of the most powerful of those inputs is something as ordinary as your evening meal. Research continues to show that the brain remains highly adaptable even in later decades of life. People in their 70s and 80s who make deliberate changes to their diet, especially by including nutrient dense whole foods like the ones we've discussed, often experience real improvements, not vague promises, but measurable changes in memory, clarity, sleep quality, and overall mental energy. These improvements show up in everyday life, in conversations that feel easier, in thoughts that come more quickly, and in a level of mental sharpness that many people assume is gone forever. This happens because the brain is always trying to repair itself. Every night while you